With universities set to reopen early next month, there are still hundreds and thousands of school leavers that are still looking for placement. But unfortunately, not all of them will be placed, as there's simply no space. With the number of bachelor passes increasing since 2014, many will find it harder to access universities. Last year, over 600,000 matriculants passed, with over 337,000 obtaining a university entrance pass. But not everyone will get space. President Cyril Ramaphosa first announced the building of 2 new universities in his State of the Nation address in 2020 and reiterated this in the same address last year. But 5 years later, where is that process? When SABC News contacted the Higher Education Department, it said it would hold a press conference on this and other matters affecting the sector next week. So is the building of new universities the answer? And why are young people still not sold on enrolling at TVET colleges? At least one professor believes that TVET colleges need to be reformed.
We need to build many new universities, and it's not just building new universities, but it's a certain kind of university. I mean, we need to build as universities. Firstly, that focus on science, mathematics, engineering, and on finance. I mean, that is what the emerging market economy like South Africa needs. If we want to grow, those are the universities that we need to build. We don't have enough universities. If we compare ourselves to other emerging markets that are fast-growing emerging markets, we just don't have enough universities. Secondly, what we also need is vocational education colleges, technical colleges. Now, emerging economies only grow if there's enough technical capability. The TVET colleges is perhaps in itself is a disaster. It's inappropriate for our economy, and that is why people are not going there. So we've got it, yes, but we need to reform it absolutely dramatically. So perhaps business must take over the TVET colleges, because these sort of colleges cannot be. It is quite critical that that individuals get the kind of skills that the economy needs. Now, currently, the TVET colleges don't produce the kind of outcomes that the economy needs. So if we want to keep the TVET colleges, we're going to have to reform it totally. I would suggest what we then need to do is hand them all over to the private sector. Let's say, for example, the mining sector, they can, for example, take control of the mining training element of the TVET colleges. If we say the retail, your big retailers, your Shoprite, the Checkers, can they take over the retail, or at least if they don't take it over, but in partnerships, so that we get, the right education, the right training priorities for the real economy. Because right now, I'm afraid to say right now, most of the TVET colleges are absolutely poorly run. They're not appropriate for the economy. Their offerings are not appropriate for this economy or for the global economy. So they are actually much more of a cost on the economy rather than a productive asset for the economy.
There's a disjuncture and an incongruence in South Africa as it pertains to the state of higher education and probably generally education in its entirety vis-a-vis our social developmental goals and where we want to go. And I say this because when you look at the plans, for instance, the proposal to build 2 new universities, one for crime detection and one for science and innovation, as noble as it is, really, when you look at the demands, the socioeconomic demands, of the demands of the economy, and also you look at just the output from basic education into higher education, you begin to see that there's a disjunction. That one of the first things that we need to do, in line, by the way, with our NDP goals, is that more than anything, we've got to invest in the TVET sector and professionalize it and make them institutions of choice, so that we're able to broaden the technical and vocational capacity of our graduates. So that's not happening currently in South Africa. And the reality is that the majority of university grades are more academic than professional. So they don't produce professionals who can be able to be immediately be integrated into the market, whether as employers or as employees. So it is a misguided, if you like, a misguided approach to build specifically for crime detection and science and innovation. Not that we should not, we probably should strengthen. Part of that investment is to make those universities, those colleges, institutions of choice. That is the fault of government that they are not, because a few things need to happen. The first one is that we need to conscientize and educate society on the benefits and the existence of colleges instead of universities. So the people don't choose them because they do not know, and this is why you are absolutely correct. Right now, the perception of TVET colleges is okay. If I fail to get into university, it will be a choice of a second choice. Well, I couldn't get into university, so I'll get into a college, and that should not be the case. And one of the ways for us to do that, we've got to deploy resources and be deliberate about making them institutions of choice. And we must go to schools, we must go to communities, and be able to educate society and learners for them to know their options.
But what about those who go through tertiary institutions, including TVET colleges, and then struggle to find employment?
The problem is there's generally a quality deficiency in many of these institutions. So you can go to, let's say, a TVET college. Many of them struggle to get people into jobs. You do sector education and training authorities, SETAs, very poor results in terms of people who are unemployed going through them and getting jobs. So it's really about how we improve the quality in all these institutions and how they can link to each other. So you might do, a shorter course at a TVET college, a technical school, and then still be supported in some way in your career to end up at universities. So I think it's really just trying to get the ecosystem to be more functional. That is probably a priority now for the government.
As it stands, about 100,000 cannot be placed as the number of bachelor passes exceeds spaces available. Chriselda, SABC News in Johannesburg.